Hi, Scott.
Hey, Felice, how are you doing?
How are you?
Pretty good. Very busy.
Can you hear me?
But yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There is a delay. I imagine there is a delay. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, but I can hear you. There is only a delay between our communication, between us.
Okay. That's good. I'm gonna do what I can on my end to speed things up. So I might drop off for like 2 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We must speak too slow, more slow to be synchronized between us. Okay. Okay. Let me try to Filomena. Filomena, scusami, mi senti real time?
Sì, ti sento, ma ti vedo male.
Ma in tempo reale mi senti? Mi vedi male?
Sì, con un leggero ritardo e ti vedo un po' male.
Ok, allora fatemi provare a un attimo riconnettere.
Mhm.
Adesso? Va meglio?
Aspetta, non ti vedo ancora.
Sorry, Scott, we are trying to make a test here in Italy just to understand the network. Mi senti meglio?
No worries.
È lo stesso, Felice.
Ok.
Forse bisogna disattivare la webcam.
Questo lo possiamo fare. Okay, Scott, now you can hear me better or not?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now I listen you in sync way. After the introduction, I will remove my camera, so you are the guest star today. So it's not important that the people see me. Okay, we have 18 people for now. We will wait just 5 minutes because the full attendees are. We expect 60 people, 60, 70, I don't remember correctly. Can you have all the right to present and so on? No? It's okay because I said to.
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's great. Oh, so it's too much time that we don't see together here in Italy.
I know. I need to get back to Italy. I need to go somewhere.
Yeah,
Preferably Italy.
Yeah. We hope that we can travel soon as possible, but I think that we need to wait for summer and later.
At least, yeah. I suspect I'm not going to be flying this year, but you never know.
Yes, but we hope that the situation can be better at the end of the year.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay, so actually, part of the people that are involved today are part of the PMI guys, and others are certified just a few months ago. So they are very interested to the evolution and the applicability, the possibility to apply directly DA in their context to support their company, like internal PM and other like consultant for big company.
Yeah.
So this is the context for today. And okay, that's great. So I see that the situation also for the website are better today, because a lot of people asked me, okay, I cannot see the designation, the PDF for the certification, but today it seems that it's all okay. That's written okay.
Yeah, that part is fixed. The badges are probably about a month away.
Yes, and okay,
Yeah,
but
it is. Yeah.
we can wait because okay, people ask me, okay, but I don't see my certification just now. Someone lose my certification. Okay, yes, we push very well to 1 or 2 people inside the PMI organization, and they are trying to help us to resolve the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So just add 2 minutes. Normally we have just 5 minutes delay, and we can start. We have 30 people just connected just now, okay. And we will start. Okay, we will wait you and also Mark here in Italy for the next conference. we can organize it for the next year, for 2022, and have you like a guest star here in Italy for one of our next conference.
Yeah, I would love to. Love to, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, Mark got double booked or something and couldn't make it today. It's unfortunate, but that's okay. Stuff happens.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
But great. Okay, and yes, I will start. Okay, I will start just now. So I will present you, but this is a little presentation because a lot of people know you. That's sure. And after this, I will pass you the stage.
Okay.
So just 2 minutes in Italian language, just to help the people, and after this, I will switch. You listen a lot of time Italian when you was here, so it's gone it's okay for you. Ok, grazie a tutti, benvenuti. Abbiamo il piacere stasera di avere Scott con noi che è già collegato. Questo è uno dei primi eventi che quest'anno faremo insieme a Scott, a Mark, che purtroppo in questa occasione non potrà essere con noi per un imprevisto, ma organizzeremo presto un altro incontro con lui. E passo in inglese, altrimenti Scott lo lasciamo un attimo isolato. So thank you, Scott, to be here. And what I told before is that this is one of our first event with you, with Scott. I hope also with Al, and the new acquisition of the family of DA since 1 year ago. And we will create something, a series of meeting with you and with other experts about DA to help people here in Italy, in Europe, to discuss about DA, in which way they can use DA to promote business agility inside the company, and in which way DA can help them, and ask also with them about the evolution and what are happening inside, not only inside the PMI, but also inside the company that use really implement DA, and also give from them suggestion, case study, case experiment, and so on, that can help us to evolve. DA is a big family. I am part of DA since 10 years ago. I met Scott at the end of the past 10 years, and we start talking about DA when DA was only DAD at the end. So I follow the evolution, and for me it's a pleasure to work with Scott, with Mark, and be part of this big family. So I don't want to reserve other time for me, and I will pass the stage to Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share some slides here, so just give me a minute. And I hope you can, I am screen sharing, that's good news. And let's play from the start. Okay, so what I would like to do today is, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. This is a wonderful opportunity. And I'd also like to give a shout out to the Agile 20 Reflect Festival. As we all know, it's the 20th anniversary of the Agile movement. So, and this month is a month-long international festival with over 600 or 700 events, such as this one. So I'm happy to have been involved with that, and I'm happy to be here. I'm sharing some good ideas about DA. So, as you heard, I'm one of the, along with Mark Lyons, I'm one of the co-creators of the Discipline Agile Toolkit. And along with Al Shalloway, we have been evolving the toolkit. The Project Management Institute purchased the Discipline Agile organization in August of 2019. And then Al Shalloway's company, Net Objectives, about 2 months later. And we've been merging our great work together for the last year or so, and I've got some really good things that are just about to come to market. Well, that have in some cases have come out to market, and in some cases are just about to come out to market. So I'm going to share some ideas there with you. So I want to spend 15-20 minutes doing a really quick overview of some ideas in DA, and then we'll go to Q&A. So that should be interesting. So as I'm going along, if you've got some questions, start typing them into the Q&A box there. So anyway, so Discipline Agile, just DA is a toolkit. It's not a framework. And this is a big difference in what you might be used to. So where the frameworks such as Scrum and SAFe and Scrum at Scale and other things are all wonderful, they typically tell you what to do. They typically have one way of working, and it's a good way if that way fits the problem that you actually have. And of course, if you adopt it well. So where DA is different, instead of telling you what to do, we work through what to think about. Here are the issues that you face. Here are the options that you have to address the issues. And then here are the trade-offs. So we enable you to make better choices, to actually have a fit-for-purpose approach that meets the needs of the situation you're in, because we're all in different situations. We're different people facing different situations, and even though those situations are similar, they're still unique. And as a result, you need to have a fit-for-purpose way of working if you want to be effective. And as your situation evolves, as you learn, you need to evolve your way of working. So DA helps you to do that. So in many ways, where the frameworks give you a fish, they feed you for a day, in DA, we teach you how to fish. We feed you for life. We teach you how to improve and how to get better. And yeah, that's a little more sophisticated, and it's a little, it takes a little more effort to learn, but then you're fed for life. And that is a much better investment than the frameworks. Now, the frameworks are a good start, don't get me wrong, but they're only a start. So having said that, so how effective are frameworks in practice? Because a lot of organizations, they're adopting Scrum or Kanban or SAFe or less or whatever else. So how well does it actually work? I'm a bit of a quant. And for those of you who know me, I've done a lot of research, published a lot of research, and I'm a data guy. I'm a quant, right? I want to see numbers. And so the point is so where do we go? How do we answer this question? How effective is this Agile stuff in practice? Well, luckily, there's a researcher by the name of Dr. Don Reifer. He earned his PhD studying Agile and answering the question, how well does Agile work in practice? And he's continued with that research. He's effectively turned it into a business. And the thing I really like about his work, well, first of all, he's got a lot of data from a very wide range of sources, and he's constantly updating it. But also, he doesn't have an axe to grind. He's not a SAFe guy. He's not a less guy. He's not a Scrum guy. He's not a Discipline Agile guy. He's just a research guy. So he's not biased. We've got a much better chance at trusting his work because he's not a member of one of these various framework or toolkit tribes. So anyways, how does this all play out in practice? So let's say you adopt a framework like Scrum or SAFe or something. So in the very early days, your effectiveness goes down. You're learning, right? You've got to get training, coaching. You got to figure out how this stuff all works. So your effectiveness goes down. But but if you're successful, very quickly, your effectiveness as a team starts to go up, and things start to get better. But then eventually you successfully adopt the toolkit, or the framework, I should say. You successfully adopt Scrum, you successfully adopt SAFe, and you hit the limits of the framework. And there's all this marketing rhetoric, oh yes, it's the art of the possible, and you can figure it out, you can just fill in the blanks, and you can tailor the framework on your own. And yes, that's in theory, that's true, but most people don't have those skills. They don't have the background to do it. And it's hard and it's expensive. So what happened? So how much more effective did things get? Because everybody has all these stories, right? Like you go to the various framework purveyors, and they'll tell you, oh, it's you can do twice the work in half the time, right? So 4 times more effective. You can, and there's all these case studies, 10 times more effective and 20 times more effective, and you know what? I have seen that. I've seen situations where I've helped make teams 10 times more effective than they were before, but that's not the norm. And it's also the situation that they were so messed up, helping them do anything was going to have a dramatic improvement for them. So it wasn't really the framework making them 10 times more effective. It was the we're not fooling around anymore decision really is what got them that 10 times productivity increase. So anyways, how is it working out in practice? Where does Dr. Reifer come into all this? Well, like I said, he's got a lot of data. He's actually got more data than from when we created the slide, but he's seeing like 7 to 12% productivity increases, which is fine. Like that's nothing to sneeze at, but it's certainly not the 4 times productivity increases that we're hearing about. Right. So we really do need to, step back and ask ourselves this. And this is easy to observe in the marketplace, right? Like if you were to step back and just like ignore the marketing for a few minutes and start, looking around to all your colleagues and start asking around, how many of them have these stories to tell you of like 4 times productivity increase, like real stories, not these stories you're hearing, but like stories from people you actually know, and they can point to it, they can show you, and they can walk you through it. It's pretty rare because they're not really happening all that much. So anyways, there is benefit from adopting these frameworks. They're very good starts, but they're only a good start. So how can we do better? So another topic, is I'm going to leave that question for a second. Another topic as well is how do we get Agile out of software development? So Agile started in the software world. That's what the manifesto is all about. It was really the manifesto for Agile software development. But over the last 2 decades, we've started applying Agile to a wider scope than just software development. So it's really all about business agility. How do we become effective as an organization? How do we rapidly adapt? How do we sense and respond as an organization? How do we become more productive and more effective at what we're doing? How do we delight our customers better? So it's all about business agility or enterprise agility, whatever terminology you want to do. So how do we do that? So how do we bring Agile out into the wider realm? And this is something that DA does. So in DA, we've architected the toolkit into 4 layers. The first layer is a foundation layer. This is where the mindset is, and I'll walk you through the mindset in a minute, the basic foundational concepts from Agile and Lean, and even from traditional, because DA is a hybrid. We're not here to give you a little gold star for being Agile. We're here to help you become effective. And if we want to, if we can be humble for a minute, and if we can be respectful for a minute, it's pretty easy to observe that the traditional community does in fact have some good ideas, as does the Agile community, as does the Lean community and others. And what we really want to do is adopt the right strategies, the best ways of working that we can pull off for the situation that we're in. And sometimes some of those strategies are a little more traditional in nature than they are Agile. And that's okay, right? We want to be effective. It's not about being Agile, it's about being effective and about getting better. And of course, roles, responsibilities, and teams, and how to choose your way of working. This is all foundational stuff. And the reason why we call it foundational is this is applicable to any type of team, to any type of organization. These are basic fundamental concepts. It's not specific to software development. The next layer is a DevOps layer. So, this is where software development lands, like disciplined Agile delivery. It's where other aspects of DevOps, such as security and data, and how do we do support, how do we do operations in enterprise class situations, and how does it all fit together? So, many of you have probably heard about DevOps, but then there's DevSecOps, then there's data DevOps now, or data ops. Some people are now calling it. How do we do release management when there's hundreds or thousands of teams in flight, and operations and support when there's many, many teams? These are important. So how does it all fit together? So DevOps, in my mind, is table stakes for most organizations. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, I'm not an IT firm, I'm not a software guy, therefore this doesn't matter. You're completely wrong. I'm sorry. It's like, I hear this all the time, and it's just complete nonsense. You've got I've been looking for organizations now that don't have software involved. Like you might be a construction firm and you build houses. Fine. That's your main line of business. But you know what? You got a billing system. You've got an inventory system. You've probably got HR systems. And yeah, you might have bought packages and cobbled them all together, or it's all running on spreadsheets or something, but there's software involved. Come on, right? And you could probably be a little bit better at it. If one thing COVID has taught us, particularly about a year ago this time, we all needed to scramble and get our IT infrastructures in place so we could all work remotely, right? So very clearly, IT and all this other good stuff is an important part of all of our businesses. Like I said, there are very few organizations where there's like no software involved whatsoever. And if it is, it's like somebody running a hot dog cart, or and even then they've got spreadsheets to order things and all the good sort of stuff. So anyways, DevOps is important. In many ways, this is table stakes. You need to get really good at being able to update software, get it in production, get going, and evolve it and update it and all good sort of stuff, and do so in a secure manner and all these good things. The next layer up are value streams. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but how do you bring products and services to market? How do you bring them to your customers? And what's the entire value stream? Like what's the entire workflow there? Not just the implementation part, not just the strategy or project management or portfolio management, whatever you want to do, but what's the overall flow? What's the overall process, and how do we make it effective, and how do we streamline it? Because for our organizations to survive, we need to be really good at serving our customers. We need to be good at delighting them and continuing to delight them. So if this is an ongoing basis, so keep that in mind. And your organization will have one or more value streams. Even if you're a government agency, like your customers in this case are the citizens that you're serving. And then finally, how does the rest of the organization work? How can we bring improvements into finance and into procurement, like vendor management, and into HR, people management stuff? Because those are important aspects of our organizations, and they can be more effective too. They can adopt agile techniques and lean techniques and so on. And in many companies, what we found doing agile transformations is that it often starts with software teams, but you very quickly hit a glass ceiling, because even though the software team is being as agile as possible, the finance folks are still doing annual budgeting and stuff like this, and just killing everybody else in being effectiveness. Or the procurement people take forever to find new materials or cut new contracts and stuff like that. We've got to do a lot better. Right. And all the, both of those things, I'm picking on them, but both of those areas can and should become more agile, more lean, and still be regulatory compliant and whatever excuses they're giving you. It's possible. Organizations are doing it. There's many, many, many examples now of companies doing these things. So this is all practical, real world advice. If you think you can't do it, it's because maybe you don't know how to do it. So fair enough. But other organizations are doing it. And if your competitors become more effective than you and be able to adapt rapidly and serve your customers better than you can, you've got a serious issue in the marketplace. So it's highly desirable to learn how to do these things. DA mindset. So, all Agilists will tell you that, it's all about the mindset and all good sort of stuff. And certainly mindset's important. It's but it's a part of the overall picture, it's not the entire picture. So one of the things we've done, so even though this is part of the 20th anniversary of the Agile Manifesto, we actually went away from the manifesto. We went way beyond it. So for many years, we had something called the Discipline Agile Manifesto, which extended the original Agile Manifesto. And there's many talks this month about, how can we possibly extend the Agile Manifesto and fix it, to make it, work and reflect the realities of like 20 years later. And we did that 10 years ago. So been there, done that. And we've actually, about a year and a half ago, we realized we needed to move on. And because the formatting of the original manifesto just wasn't getting the job done for business agility. So we stepped back and we asked the question, well, if we were to rewrite the manifesto today from scratch, how would we do it? And we came up with this format. So we believe in this collection of principles, like such as delighting customers and how context counts, because we're all in unique situations. Therefore, we need choice. We want to optimize flow and be enterprise aware, do what's right for the organization, not just what's convenient for the team. So because we believe in these sorts of principles, we make promises both to ourselves and to the other people that we work with and the other people that we collaborate with. So we want to create psychological safety and diversity. We want to collaborate proactively, both within the team and with people outside of the team, because we want to optimize flow. We want to keep our workloads within capacity, have a sustainable pace. We want to improve continuously. I'll talk about that in a slide or two. So because we make these promises, in order to fulfill them, we follow a collection of guidelines. We take a validated learning approach. We apply design thinking. We realize, and this is a pure lean concept, the way that you change culture is by improving your way of working, by improving the system and the working environment. Many organizations struggle with change in culture, and culture follows action. Culture follows new practices and new behaviors, and then your culture will emerge from these changed ways of working. We want to create semi-autonomous, self-organizing teams. We want to enable teams to be cross-functional, built from cross-functional people. We want to enable them to be as successful as possible. And of course, we want to measure what we're doing. We want to improve the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. We want to leverage and enhance our organizational assets, which means we want to reuse as much as possible. We also want to pay down technical debt as well. One of the interesting things about the project management community is they tend to increase technical debt. The best practices of project management might be okay in the short term, but in the long term, they actually harm the organization. So this is stuff that we're working on right now, and how to help our managers, help our leaders to better understand technical debt and to actually coherently address it, and better yet, avoid it to begin with, but certainly pay it down when we hit it. So there's some behavior changes coming in many organizations, because we can't go on. We can't keep building. And many of you, if you worked in an organization that struggled to go to remote working because of technical issues, you didn't have laptops, you didn't have network connectivity, you didn't have security, or whatever your issues were, that's all. All that gets exacerbated by technical debt, because technical debt's low quality, and that makes you slower and harder to react. So anyway, a lot of great ideas there. So Discipline Agile is actually an umbrella over these great Agile techniques and lean techniques and hybrid techniques, and we help put them into context, because there's thousands of techniques out there. So which ones are right for you? How do they fit together? How do they, when do you do each one? When do you not do each one? Because there's no such thing as a best practice. Any given practice works well in some situations and is a bad idea in others. So you need to choose the right ways of working that you can do now. So you want to do the best that you can in the situation that you face, and always strive to get better. So the goal here is we show you in DA how to pick the right techniques off the shelf and build your own way of working. It's like, how do you, when you go to make dinner tonight, how do you know to go to the pantry and pick the right ingredients and cook them up to make tonight's dinner, as opposed to making tomorrow's dinner, which is a different set of ingredients, cooked in a different way and prepared in a different way, right? This is a situation that we're in. Different teams are in different situations, just like you want to have something different for dinner each night. So we believe in continuous improvement. So instead of, so earlier I talked about how, the frameworks might not be fulfilling the big promises that they're making. So what do? Right? That's a fair question. So my advice would be to step back, think, and observe, ask yourself, what organizations are really good? What organizations would you be scared to compete against? Or maybe you are competing against and it's not going so well for you. So I would argue it's organizations like, Apple and Amazon, eBay, Google. Those are really hyper competitive organizations. They're hard to compete against. Netflix and many others, right? Well, how did they get good? They got good because not by adopting frameworks. They would laugh at you. Or Spotify, right? Everybody talks about the Spotify method, which they abandoned years ago. They've moved way beyond that. I don't know if that's news to anybody, but they've moved way beyond that. But anyways, they chose to get good, right? They chose to put together their own way of working, and they continue to do that. So all these companies, the scary companies that you're afraid to compete against, they follow a technique called continuous improvement. And it works like this. They identify a problem, they through a retrospective or by stumbling into it, or however somehow they identify a problem. They identify techniques, one or more techniques that might help them to solve that problem. And they also identify how they're going to measure. Then they try the techniques out. Then they assess, they measure, they figure out yes or no, did this technique work for us in our situation? If it worked, they adopt it. If it didn't work, they abandon it. And then, of course, if they're good, they share their learnings with others, and then they continue on. So all these companies, the Amazons, the eBays of the world, the way they got good was one small step at a time, one small improvement at a time. This is a Japanese idea called Kaizen, improving, making big improvements over time as a collection of small improvements. So how can we do better? So, so this is a proven technique. Organizations have been doing this for years. Now, an interesting question we could ask ourselves is, well, how could we do even better? And this is what the DA toolkit teaches you to do. So when you start working through how could we possibly improve this process, well, the third step there is where some of the problems lie, because we sometimes identify techniques that don't work for us. We fail, right? And everybody tells you, well, it's all about failing fast. We're going to run an experiment. We're going to fail fast. And certainly that's better than failing slowly. So that is a good idea. But failing is still failing, right? And what happens is, and then there'll be more marketing spin. The coaches will tell you, well, it's not really a failure because we're learning something. We're learning what doesn't work for us. And okay, that's fair too. That is that's an accurate spin. But imagine being the person paying the bills for all these failures, right? It quickly wears thin. And the question becomes, well, how can we fail less, right? And the traditional response is usually, well, we're just not going to run any experiments, right? If you don't run any experiments, then you don't fail. But then that also means you're not learning and you're not improving. So bad news, right? So we still have to run the experiments, but it would be really nice if we were a little bit smarter in the way that we do these things. Let's try to do our best to fail less often, to succeed more often. So yes, failing fast is fine, but could we not try to succeed early? That sounds better to me. So how do we do that? Well, when we start asking that question, we quickly realize the real problem is in the second step. If we can get better at identifying techniques to experiment with for the situation that we're in, then we will fail less often. We will, greater chance of success means we fail less often. Basic math, right? So how do we do that? Well, one way is to hire a good coach, right? And I'm a firm believer in coaching. Go out. If you can find really good Agile coaches, great. Those people are gold. Get them, bring them in, work with them, follow their advice. But how do you know how to find them? Can you afford them? Can you attract them? Can you keep them? Easier said than done in some cases, right? But coaches are awesome. Better yet, coaches who are trained in Discipline Agile, who can help you to learn how to improve, to help you leverage the DA toolkit to make these better decisions. So then how do you do that is an interesting question. So I'll show you. So anyways, I'll give you an example. So what we do in DA, instead of remember how I said we don't tell you what to do, we tell you what to think about. Well, we've organized team agility into a collection of what we call process goals. So these are all things teams, in particular, there's a little bit of a software focus here right now, but these are all things that teams need to accomplish. These are goals, outcomes that we need to, process outcomes or process goals that we need to fulfill throughout a project or throughout product development, whatever style you're taking. So a couple of them, secure funding and coordinate activities. So on a team, we need to secure funding to, run the team, right? To do whatever we're going to do. We also need to coordinate activities both within the team and with other teams. And of course, we need to do all these other things. So let's do a deep dive though into these two. So when for those of you with Agile experience, maybe you're doing Scrum or something else, step back and think for a minute. When you coordinate activities within your team and with other teams, are you doing a little bit more than a daily stand-up? Like, let's be honest about it. You're probably sending emails back and forth every so often and having telephone calls and doing, yes, you're probably having a stand-up meeting every day or, some sort of coordination meeting every day, but you're probably doing more to coordinate than just that, right? And that's okay. So this is an example of something we call a goal diagram. And in a goal diagram, there's three main things here. First is the goal itself, in this case, coordinate activities. The square rectangles in the middle are something we call decision points or intents. So in order to coordinate activities, we've got to do things like, share information, share our artifacts, share the things that we're creating somehow. We need to coordinate within a team. We probably have working sessions every so often. If we're part of a larger team of teams, then we're going to have to coordinate across the program. If we're not part of a team of teams, then fine, we don't do this. We probably have to coordinate across our organization. How do we interact with other teams? We probably have dependencies on other teams, or they have dependencies on us. So we need to coordinate our release schedule. And of course, if we're working remotely, on the off chance that some of us are working from home these days because of COVID, then we also need to coordinate between locations. And we've all learned that there's ways to do this over the last year or so. So another thing, and then on the right-hand, we see a bunch of options for each of these goals. So instead of telling you, this is the best practice, this is the only way, official way of doing this, instead we say, you know what, you need to consider these issues, these process issues. Here are some options. And then behind the scenes, and I'm not going to show you that because that's a lot of detail, are the trade-offs. So what are the trade-offs between these techniques? When would you use each one? When would you not use each one? When you see an arrow beside the lists, that's an indication, that's what we call an ordered list. So the strategies towards the top of the list are generally more effective than the strategies towards the bottom of the list. Some of the lists are ordered, some are not. When it's not ordered, then we really can't tell you that this practice or this strategy is generally better than these other ones. But we can tell you what the trade-offs are. So that way you can choose the technique that makes the most sense for you given your current situation. So do the best that you can in the situation that you face. The other diagram, how do you secure funding for your team? And, was it effective? Well, once again, here's the secure funding process goal. So this is a bit simpler. It has only three decision points. How we can go about choosing our funding, and sometimes these decisions are already made for you. Your organization might have one way of doing everything, right? And they believe that's a best practice. So in that case, so if you're in a situation where your finance department, for example, says this is the only way that we fund projects, you need to go and follow this process and give us this information, then we'll review it, then maybe we'll fund you. And many organizations are like that. So in that case, you can start using the DA toolkit to understand what your options are and maybe negotiate with the finance folks of maybe we could adopt a better strategy. Maybe we could experiment with this approach to funding this project and see how well it works. So we can have, so one of the great things about the toolkit is it enables us to have more intelligent discussions about things that we might not have a deep background in. And this is absolutely valuable, particularly for coaches, but certainly for teams in general and people in general. Because the more, the better we understand what another group is trying to achieve, the better we can collaborate with them. The more likely we can have intelligent conversation and decide together to maybe improve and experiment with a new way of working in order to fulfill whatever mission we have. We also believe that teams should choose their own life cycle. So I have the privilege of going into organizations around the world, and I've been doing this for a few decades now. And when I go into an organization, particularly one that's telling me, oh, we're a Scrum shop, or we're a Safe shop, or we're a we're a traditional shop, whatever they claim, it's never accurate. Like unless it's a truly small one-team company, then fine, maybe. But any decent-sized organization, it's not consistent. Because when I walk in, I can very quickly see, oh, well, that's a Scrum team, that's a Kanban team, that team's doing lean startup and whatever. Different teams in different situations work different ways. This is phenomenally easy to observe. And some of the teams are working in a hybrid manner. Some teams are working in a traditional manner. This is easy to observe. So what that tells you, and this is happening for very good reasons. So what that tells you is that your toolkit needs to support multiple life cycles. It needs to support multiple ways of working in order to be sufficient for your needs. So we have an agile project-based life cycle. We also have a continuous delivery, more of a DevOps-y agile life cycle, both based on Scrum. We support a lean project life cycle and a continuous delivery lean. This is, to me, is more of a true DevOps type of thing, both based on Kanban. Those first two life cycles are project life cycles. The other two life cycles are product life cycles, because some teams are taking a project-based approach. Other teams are more long-standing product teams. Perfectly fine. So right now there's a great raging debate over projects versus product. The answer is yes. Do the right thing in the situation that you face. Don't, like, one extreme or the other is not always the way to go. Make decisions, right? We also support an exploratory lean startup based strategy for new product or new service exploration or ideation. And of course, a program team of teams life cycle. So how do you do a large agile team? So, very similar, this life cycle is very similar to LESS with the respect that we also explicitly call out architecture work. This is the DA Flex life cycle for value streams. So remember earlier, I was talking about the value stream layer. Well, this is how it all fits together from a flow point of view. So a value stream begins, ends, and potentially continues, hopefully continues, with customers. So we go through needs explorations and strategization, prioritization. We explore, ideate at the product management level. We identify minimum business increments. What's the smallest thing that we can release into the marketplace that brings potential value to our customers? We implement. And this isn't just, even though there's it's still a little bit of a software focus here, this is equally applicable to building houses, like physical construction, right? And obviously, implementation of a house is a bit different than implementation of software, but it's still implementation. And then we eventually release this stuff into the marketplace. We deploy it, and it goes to our business operations, and then they work with customers to actually realize value. It's not until something is in the hands of a customer and they like it and they get value from it, that's when value has been earned. Okay, you don't earn value during a project. It's not valuable until it's actually being used. Actually, somebody is, your customers are getting value from it. The process blades in the middle are all supporting activities for all of this. Now, in a smaller organization or for a smaller value stream, all this work could be getting done by one team. In large organizations, this will be several teams working together. Even in that situation, we still need to make sure that we optimize the flow, that we're all working together effectively. So just to wrap up here, we saw that adopting a framework adds value, right? But the frameworks enjoy a value curve that looks like this, or an improvement curve that looks like this. It eventually peaks out. Because the thing is, a framework solves a specific problem, and then once you solve that problem, the framework really doesn't have much more to add for you. And no framework will tell you how to move away from it. That doesn't make any sense, right? So you end up in what Ivar Jakobsen likes to call method jail or framework prison, where you hit the limits and it is what it is, and they want you to figure it out on your own, basically. We've seen that organizations like Amazon and eBay, who truly are leading edge organizations, enjoy an improvement curve that looks like this. It just continues to go because they've learned how to learn. They've become a learning organization. With DA, we can be even smarter, because more than likely, I'm sorry, but your organization is probably not on the leading edge. you are probably dealing with issues that other organizations have dealt with many times before and successfully done it. So the implication of that is that you can leverage the learnings of others. And this is where the DA toolkit comes into play. You can quickly adopt techniques that have already been proven to work in other organizations. So you can improve faster because you're not failing as often as the leading edge organizations are. They have to, because they are truly leading edge. They are creating and identifying new ways of working that nobody else has done before. But that, luckily, or maybe not luckily, that's not you. So you can leverage their learnings, and this is where the DA toolkit comes in. So our advice is to improve in place. So you start where you are. So maybe you're a traditional organization. Maybe you've already successfully adopted one of the frameworks like Scrum or SAFe. Maybe you're a SAFe shop and things are going along well. Or you've probably got some issues, but you want to improve on them. So start where you are. You're professionals. You're doing the best that you can in the situation that you face. This is inherently what people do, right? So that's great. But we can always strive to get better. We can always improve. We can always learn. And this is where DA kicks in. So we have PMI offers, as you all know, I hope, several Agile certifications. The PMI ACP has been around for several years. This is not going away. So if any of you are worried about that, it is not going away. We've the Discipline Agile Scrum Master and the Discipline Agile Senior Scrum Master. We are just about to bring out DA VSC, the Value Stream Consultant, and the DA Coach, these more senior certs. One of the things about the PMI certifications that might be a bit unusual for existing Agilists is we ask that you earn the certification. It's not just about taking a workshop and passing a very easy exam. You've got to earn the certs. And some organizations like Scrum.org, for example, also believe in that. But some organizations, maybe they don't. So anyways, this is a pretty good certification program, and there's some great stuff there. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to work this through with you. There's some great information out there about Discipline Agile at pmi.org. We have the Discipline Agile Hub or Discipline Agile microsite. So pmi.org/Discipline Agile, bunch of great stuff there. Bunch of good stuff going on the projectmanagement.com as well. We're just about to retire disciplineagileconsortium.org. So, and all that will be on pmi.org very soon. So anyways, thank you very much. And I'm happy to take questions now.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. You are very clear. Like every time I listen to you and we listen to you. Yes, you have the first two questions. One coming from Tiziano, and he asks to you. You can read it directly in question and answer. But Tiziano asks to you, what is your opinion about? I will summarize it. About the simply flowchart used today to choose the life cycle. Tiziano, I know what is the workflow, and I'm sure that also figure 6.14 page 97. Tiziano is very, very direct people, and is related to the simple workflow to choose the starting life cycle. There is I can try to find it if you want, but you have it, this image for the other people.
Yeah. So basically, the question is around how do you choose between the life cycles?
No. The question is if, in the opinion of Tiziano, the flowchart is too simple to choose the right life cycle in the specific context. And he suggested to find a different way, a different assessment tool for evaluating the right starting life cycle.
Yeah, so it really does depend. And you're right, it's more, the purpose of that diagram, that flow chart, is more to get you thinking that you've got choices and to solve. A lot of organizations are struggling with this as a concept, and are really, and particularly organizations that are struggling with Agile in general, they will often put together some sort of like a flow chart or a spreadsheet or something, and which is almost always designed to tell you that your situation doesn't warrant being Agile for the most part. So the purpose of that flow chart is to give a reasonable overview of, here's some fairly common logic for choosing between the life cycles. But yeah, but there's other issues, and we later on in that chapter, actually, chapter 6 in the Choose Your Wow book, we actually go into cultural issues and skills issues and other things like that. So it's more sophisticated. Yes, you're right. It's more sophisticated than what's in that flow chart, but at the same time, it's hard to describe in just a few paragraphs or just a few pictures. So, and actually, this is one of the things that coaches can help you with, but also when you read more details about the life cycles themselves, I think it's each life cycle has suggestions of when this is a good idea and when it's not. But yeah, it's very hard to capture this logic in a single diagram. And even that diagram, even though it's simple, it's fairly complex. There's a lot of flow there. So anyways, but yeah, good, interesting point.
Thank you, Scott. The next question coming from Ivano, and Ivano asks if there is a plan, there is an improvement to merge or to create a synergy between the DA portfolio management blade and the portfolio management inside the PMP.
Yeah, so great. The answer is yes, and it's underway. So in general, DA has leveraged ideas from PMI long before we were owned by PMI. So there's great stuff in the portfolio management standard, the program management standard, the risk management stuff, and many others, as you know. So the question then becomes, so our goal in DA is to put options in context and to help you choose. The various standards and guidelines and practice guides are their focus is more along the lines to explore, go down a level of detail and tell you how to do things. So there, as you know, I hope, the PMBOK Guide 7th edition will soon be published, and it has a lot of great ideas from Agile and Lean in it. In the future, we will also be, I would think, I don't have don't ask me for exact timelines, but we will be publishing updates to various standards and practice guides. Now, also keep in mind, though, that particularly anything that's a standard, there is a international recognized process for doing updates. So it's not just, we want to add some Agile stuff into the standard. We've got to go through the process. There's a detailed process for doing so, and rightfully so. So updating the standards tends to be a bit slower and a little less often than what we can do in other aspects of our IP. So, but quick answer is yes, we're working on stuff like this.
Okay, great. Next question coming from Giulio, and Giulio make a consideration about the breadth and the depth of DA, and his question is, in my organization I see many issues. From where should I start to apply DA and use DA to resolve this issue?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So generally, you want to start at your biggest pain point. So what are your biggest problems to solve? Let's start there, that you can viably solve, right? So you might have like huge problems that there's not much you can do about it at the present moment. So start where you are. And in the executive guide to DA, we work through a technique called lean change management, which basically is very similar to just working in a lean manner, except for transformation, where you identify minimally viable changes and then you implement them one at a time, but as appropriate. So you just improve over time. So that's more of a multi-team organizational strategy, overall transformation strategy, rather than GCI, guided continuous improvement, which is more of a team-focused strategy. But they're both very similar, right? Identify a small change, make it, experiment with it, measure it, see if it works. If it worked for you, adopt it. If it didn't, abandon it. And basically, lean change management is the basic strategy, except at a different scope. So some good stuff there. But we're just about to start publishing some great advice around how to run transformations. And actually, the DAVSC certification, which is just about to come out, is focused on exactly that. And which is one of the reasons why we're just about to publish some transformation advice to support the cert, the new cert.
Great. So next is related to one guys that is PMP certified and ask, okay, when a PMP certified project manager working in a company using waterfall and also well-known lean and never worked on Agile project, how could it be complicated to get the DA certification?
Yeah, so in that case, an experienced project manager or anybody, I would suggest, if you have no Agile experience or very little, then you would start with DASM, Discipline Agile Scrum Master, because this is a beginning level thing. We also have some e-learning. We have an introduction to Agile e-learning. We have an introduction, or we have one we call the Basics of Discipline Agile, which is an overview of fundamental DA concepts. That's also a good start. But if you're looking for a cert, I would start with DASM. Then after a couple of years, become a senior Scrum Master, right? So with all our certs, there's DASM, there's no real experience need. As you can see, 0 years experience. But everything after that requires 1 or more years of experience, typically. So in the case of somebody with no Agile experience, start with DASM. Then after you get some experience, then you can continue on the learning journey, if that makes sense for you.
And another question related to, let me check, to people that have a project manager mindset coming from Elena, and what type of people, what kind of people is needed to apply to use DA, the way of working, to choose the way of working inside the company with the DA toolkit, when inside the company there is only, or there is almost a project management mindset that is not related to this type of mindset. Yeah, so I would invite people to start learning about the DA mindset. This is based on years of people with just over a century of Agile and Lean experience in total, and so this is a great starting point. So help your colleagues to look beyond their current mindset, and this is certainly a message that will be loud and clear in PMBOK Guide 7, the PMBOK Guide version 7, spectacularly loud and clear. So if they are project managers, then this is coming their way. Now, certainly the DA mindset goes further. And we're all about, how do you be, how can an organization be agile and be lean? And these ideas are described in greater detail, both in the Choose Your WOW book, as well as in the on PMI.org. For those of you who are PMI members, you can download a PDF of Choose Your WOW free of charge. So you can read, just like you can download other PMI publications. So I invite you to do that, and you can also purchase it for $20 American if if you're not a member, or if you like paper, or if you like other formats.
But anyways, yeah, so there's a bunch of great ideas there, but some of these, some parts of the DA mindset are very clearly different than the typical management mindset. One of them is that you guide people, you lead people, you don't manage them. Intellectual workers don't respond well to management. What we really need, and they're smart. Like if somebody is competent at their job, they don't need to be told what to do. They might, need a little bit of guidance of priorities and stuff like that, but they can do their own planning. They can figure out how to do their own work. So it's a very different thing. I see a lot of managers struggle becoming agile because they believe their job is to tell people what to do. And that is just completely wrong in the agile community. So if I had to pick one thing that managers struggle with, that's probably it. So I think, there's a lot, but there's clear roles for management here. So, one thing, changing the culture by improving the system, this typically requires more senior leadership than what you might have within a team. There's measurement stuff here. We're going to need help to create effective environments that foster joy, typically, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for management or somebody with an existing management role to move into Agile and add great value. And I think that, and this is the critical thing for anybody, not just for project managers, but in Agile, we want to help everybody to add value, to enjoy what they do, to add value, to help delight their customers. And this requires a bit of a different mindset sometimes. And of course, the greater focus on quality in the Agile space. So we really don't like sacrificing quality just to be on time and on budget. I was in 3 or 4 conversations this week with various teams on that very issue, and where they were making just dramatic mistakes in order to be on time and on budget, when frankly nobody cared about the schedule. Like, they believed somebody cared, and when I started let's talk about this a little bit more. Where's that date coming from? And it was fictional. So it's like, wishful thinking stuff. And they were making just huge mistakes in order to hit a date that nobody cared about. It was absolute insanity. So we rethought the plan. And that was different for some of the managers among us. They never even thought of doing that. It's like, gotta hit her date, gotta hit the date. It's like, yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And some dates are important, don't get me wrong, but many aren't. So, and particularly, hitting a date and producing bad quality, that's just crazy talk. So, we need to do better. Anyways, long-winded answer. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. So another direct question from Tiziano. Why you like PMI choose to call the certification DA Senior Scrum Master when Scrum is only a small part of the DA toolkit, and why you choose to use Scrum Master inside the certification?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I had a lot of heartburn myself over that very issue. It's a market reality. If you look in the marketplace right now, there's tens of thousands of jobs for Scrum Masters. There's hundreds of thousands of jobs. There's tens of thousands for senior Scrum Masters. So what we've learned the hard way over the years is that people will invest the time to get a certification, invest the time to learn the material, if it's attached to something that will help them to get a job or to move forward in their career. It's just simple marketplace realities. So we have Scrum Master in the term, but for both those certs, for DASM and DASSM, we go way beyond being a Scrum Master. So because DA is not limited to Scrum, exactly to your point. And so we teach, and so in many ways, it's a breath of fresh air for anybody with a Scrum certification, because we can help you break out of the Scrum mindset and the Scrum box, to help you break out of Scrum method prison. And many people are in that, unfortunately. And we can help you. And it's interesting. We've had very experienced senior Scrum people go through some of our training, and they get a little bit of attitude on the first day because I'm a Scrum Master, I've been doing this for years, I know everything. And then by the end of the first day, like invariably they'll be coming to us at the end going, oh my God, you're covering all these things that nobody ever talks about, and nobody, and all these problems that we've got, and you've solved them all. And it's like, we've been struggling with these, this issue and this issue and this issue, and you've got answers, and you've got multiple answers, and we can choose, and I can see right away how we can make this work in my organization. And we didn't get this at all from Scrum. And that's at the end of the first day. So it's a really beautiful thing to see, because we help them break out of method jail. And because there's more than Scrum, there's more than safe, there's more than less, and there's more than a PMBOK guide. Hate to a little bit of heresy there for PMBOK, but there's more to life than the PMBOK guide. Sorry, and that's okay, right? So we can help you. DA is all about helping you to get better at getting better, and giving you the freedom of choice, and I'm helping you to work smarter.
Actually, the last question from Mattia, and this is very direct question. Mattia, working in a company that are implementing DA in some way, use DA for their change, and he asked to us that they have difficult to follow one of the promises: keep workload within capacity, because the company continuously asks them to make more work and be efficiency and create more speed. In which way you can suggest to him to be aligned with these promises? In which way he can work with his company to respect these promises?
That's a really hard problem. My team suffers from it as well. It requires great discipline, and so the leaders on your team, the team lead and the product owner, if you've got one, part of their job is to protect the team from stuff like that, and to help the team not overcommit, to help force stakeholders to make hard decisions. So when my team, and actually I'm in a meeting in about an hour on this very issue, because my team is being asked to do new important work. Okay, fine, but something has to give. We had a really harsh conversation yesterday where, we got to make this date, blah, 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 blah. And we can't do it because we got all this new work. Yeah, I know we can't do it. So what's going to give, right? Either, we've got to make a decision here where either we push the date back for a good reason, we refuse to do this new work until we have capacity to take it on, so after we've got our existing deliverable done, or maybe we stop what we're currently working on because this new thing, it really is more important, and it makes sense to focus on that as opposed to focus on the thing we're focused on, right? So, and we're gonna settle that out today, but I hope. But that's, but this is the reality that we all face, right? Like, we have all these number one priorities that we have to deal with from different stakeholders, and and part of being a leader on the team is to help lead the team through these hard decisions. And also in some cases on my team, I gotta coach people in not taking, and including myself, unfortunately, in not taking on more work they can take on than they can handle right now, right? So, but this requires discipline. Actually, and this has been a problem in the Agile community from the very beginning. There's, if you can dig it up, there's some very good writings by Kent Beck and others in the XP world, where they lament the challenge around the sustainable pace concept in Agile, because it's a great idea, but man, it's hard to pull off. This 40, in XP they had a practice 40-hour work week, and I would love a 40. I can't, I would love a 40-hour work week. It's,
it's not so simple. Yeah,
if I could have a 50-hour work week, I'd be happy. But it's hard. It's very hard. So, but you got to work it. The big thing is you're aware of that issue, and you've got to work it. And and if you read the response, particularly the product owner, some of the responsibilities of the product owner to protect the team from that sort of stuff. You know, you got to make trade-offs, right? If this brand new number one thing has to be done right away, okay, fine. We're going to stop working on this other number one thing that you desperately wanted last week. And then we're going to force the stakeholders to make those explicit decisions, because we're not going to burn out the team. That does not work out well in the long run.
Okay, great. Yes, if you have your CIO that asks you to change your plan, you must change your plan. It's difficult to say no. The complex to say no is very complex. So I see that there are more questions. One about, I don't know if you can respond to this. Why is so huge? Why is so complex to integrate DA with the PMI? It's a very large question.
Well, the PMI is a large organization with a deep set of IP. I unfortunately don't have, even though I got a lot of books behind me, my PMI books are at home. At home, I'm at my cottage right now. But the PMI bookshelf of just the standards and guidelines is about that thick. So that's a lot of IP to change. So it just takes time. And we're several hundred people doing a lot of really good things. It takes time to integrate. So so from a organizational integration point of view, we're going along well. And plus there's been a pandemic. That's been a bit rough too. But from an IP point of view, it's going to be a long time to update IP for some of the reasons I was talking about earlier. Some of our IP is just on schedules where like some of the standards, I believe we only have a shot at updating once every 5 years, or we'll have to wait 5 years before we can before we can seriously start talking about an update to it. That's just the nature of standards.
Okay, and another question from Elena. Is there in the toolkit a suggestion to mix the manager through the portfolio, the manager of traditional waterfall project and DA project, Agile project? Is there a suggestion, practices to mix the manager of both type of project?
Yes, actually, I assume that's happening. And I have absolutely no doubt that somewhere there's some perfectly agile organizations and somewhere there's some perfectly traditional organizations. But in my experience, pretty much every organization I work for has some agile, has some lean, has some traditional, has some hybrid. So at the portfolio management level, if you're in the portfolio management team, you need to guide those, you need to monitor and govern those projects regardless of the paradigm. And one of the reasons why we have a governance process blade, these hexes are all called process blades, is because the governance strategy needs to reflect the reality of the team. So an agile team needs to be governed in an agile way. A traditional team needs to be governed in a traditional way. Because you try to govern agile with the traditional approach, and all you will do is cause harm. That's the only outcome of doing that. And whether or not you're able to detect that is another problem, but you are causing harm by forcing traditional governance on agile teams, and vice versa, right? Forcing agile governance on a traditional team will just blow their minds. So it's not good. So if you're in a portfolio management position, you've got to be flexible enough to work with agile teams in an agile way, traditional teams in a traditional way, hybrid teams in a hybrid way. So it requires greater skill and flexibility. But yeah, we assume there's an underlying assumption that your organization is a hybrid.
Okay, I give a response to Guido about the starting certification, but it's okay. I think I don't know if Guido will ask something different to Scott. I have a question for you, Scott, just from my side. I'm working a lot with a company in which software are only part of a more complex system with the physical part, mechanical part, chemical part, and so on. Actually, worldwide, I think these are becoming more common than in the past of the agile adoption. What are actually the experience about the DA community, your experience about the DA community, and in which way we can, I don't know, integrate or extend with the case study and so on, DDA and help DDA community and the company that want to adopt DDA, not outside the software field, because the software is part of the complex system, but in which way we can do that and support the company in the adoption of DA when the software is, okay, it's just a little part, but okay, for hardware, we cannot use Agile. For mechanical part, we cannot use Agile and so on, because a lot of time I get a response like this, but I'm lucky at this time because I'm working with different companies which we are experiment the possibility to use Agile in very, very different field to create a complex system. I a lot of time use the example of SpaceX, Elon Musk, for example. Okay, this is Agile, inspect and adapt, but it's not so common actually. What is your experience? What is your suggestion to do that?
Yeah, exactly. So, so a couple points. So first, you're right. We do need more case studies along those lines, without a doubt. Second, yeah. So look for examples. Like very clearly, SpaceX is an agile organization, and they are doing things that are probably far more complex than your client. Right? They're putting spaceships up, and they're landing spaceships, and they're landing them on floating platforms, and holy crow! And it looks cool too, right? You got these like silver, 1950s design stuff going on. And yeah, they're having some spectacular failures. We saw one a few days ago, but yeah, they're working in a very agile manner. And so, if they're literally doing it in the rocket science field, I suspect you can do it in the automotive field or wherever you're working. And certainly there are case studies of automotive organizations such as BMW and others that are working in an agile manner and have been for a long, long time. Years ago when I was at IBM, I worked with a gentleman, Bruce Powell Douglas, and his focus was on exactly that space. He wrote a book on that in the late 2000s. He actually has a brand new book coming out called Agile Modeling for System Engineering, I think it's called, or something like that. The author is Bruce Powell Douglas, where he's walking through techniques and case studies of organizations doing this. And his previous book had case studies in it too, from automotive and from robotics, and a wide range of reasonably straightforward, they're hard domains, but reasonably straightforward things like building trucks and good things like that. So yeah, there are techniques out there without a doubt. So I think, but at the same time, we need to recognize that working with atoms is a bit different than working with bits. And I think that's where some of the engineers are getting at. But yeah, it is possible. And like you said, like SpaceX is a classic example of an organization that chooses to be agile. Even NASA does it. At anybody who was at PMI Congress about a year and a half ago now, I guess, one of the team lead or the project or the program lead from one of the Mars probes, Surveyor, I think it was, where they landed I guess it was a half-ton half-ton rover on Mars. Successfully did it, and they walked through what they did. And it was interesting. It was a hybrid agile approach, and what I found fascinating in his talk was all the hard problems that they needed to solve, and they had spectacularly hard problems that nobody had ever solved before. All of them were done in an agile manner. All of them, they started trying to do traditional, and every single time that they applied traditional techniques, it failed. And they couldn't afford the risk of taking a traditional approach. They had to have a hybrid agile approach, and they were successful. As we know, they landed it and they were successful. But yeah, it was just an absolutely fascinating talk. So yeah, so I would help them to read a little more widely and to observe that other organizations are in fact doing this, that it is becoming more and more common. But be fair, working with hardware is a bit different than working with software. So we need to appreciate that as well. And I haven't read Bruce's new book, but knowing Bruce, it is more than likely it is a work of genius, and it more than likely is a really good book. I'm looking forward to it, and it's just about to come out. So yeah, keep your eye out for it.
Okay, great. Oh, there are no more questions, so I think it's time also to close because we go ahead on 1 hour, and so thank you so much, Scott. You are an Italian voice for me. You are an Italian colleague for me because I love when you stay here in Italy. I opened with this session before, and thank you so much. And I hope we can have you guests for other interview, other meeting very soon. And thank you so much. Good afternoon. What is your
My pleasure.
time zone?
Yeah, it's early afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
quarter after.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone to be part of this meeting.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we will wait for ending for the participant. Okay. Okay. Scott, I will send you an email after when we close in the next day. So I will talk with you about something and give you some feedback about the meeting. Okay,
Yeah,
I will close for all. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.